is we had last week on our show Dustin Forbes. Dustin joined us in advance of the WHL trade deadline, and there has been some moves. Yesterday was the deadline. I think it was 3 p.m. Central Time, and there has been some moves. I'm going to bring this up here. We'll just kind of look at a few of these here. Look how nicely this is laid out too. Edmonton. They have made a huge splash, and after making a huge splash earlier in the year, 2 of them, they've made another one, this time adding Justin Sordiff from the Vancouver Giants. He's on the World Junior team, of course, which didn't end up really doing much, but he did make the World Junior team. The Giants, to me, were one of the more confusing teams because they dumped when they're literally best player, but they also added some players. So it's like, okay, maybe they're just trying to like maintain face a little bit, but they did trade 2 of their best players here. As you can see, the next trade down, Tanner Brown, a really good minute-eating, solid defenseman going to the Winnipeg Ice, who were the best team in the country for most of the season so far. So they traded 2 of their best players away. But if you look down, they also added some players as well throughout the trade deadline there. The Winnipeg doesn't stop there. They added Chase Wheatcroft, who was on the Lethbridge Hurricanes, one of their top scorers, top scoring forwards. The Regina Pats made a couple of moves in the day. They traded Tom Cadu to the Vancouver Giants, as I mentioned. He's a right shot defenseman, solid player. The Pats also traded Drew Englot to the Kamloops Blazers for Ty Spencer. Ty Spencer is from Saskatoon, Max. Really high scoring. I was going to say midget, but I'm not supposed to say that anymore. He had a really high scoring career in the under 18 leagues and 15 and under leagues. And he's had a bit of a slower start in Kamloops, but coming to Regina as a 17-year-old forward, I think he'll fit in nicely with kind of their progression. But Drew Englot, Max, I got a text from our good friend Katie Fleury. I don't know if she's watching tonight, but Katie Fleury, her daughter had a connection to Drew Englot. He was her favorite player. So Katie was a little upset that they traded Drew. So she let me know about that. But overall, not a ton of moves. But definitely some big names. Another one, too, for the fans out west, Luke Toporowski, one of Spokane's best players for the last few years, is going to Kamloops. And Nick McCary, who Dustin Forbes mentioned like 10 times in our episode last week, was moved the other way. So he did end up getting moved. Sorry, Nick, if you're watching. We said this last week, too. But he did end up getting moved, as Dustin kind of projected. One move that was a little surprising, and I had to ask around, Josh Pillar to Saskatoon. So Kamloops, as you can see, they added Max. They added a 19-year-old forward and a 20-year-old forward. So then they go out and they trade literally an over a point per game forward in Josh Pillar, who's NHL drafted, to Saskatoon for picks. And I had to ask around. I guess he's from Saskatoon. He's from Saskatchewan, and his family lives there, obviously. He has some medical things that he's got going on, and I guess he just wanted to be closer to home. So Kamloops granted his wish and said, okay, we'll let you go ahead and do that. So I guess like kudos to Kamloops for doing that. I just kind of wasn't sure what was going on, so I had to look into it. But there you go. There's your recap on the WHL trade deadline.